Nah, that's just gross.
What's
Look at
gross?
that. See
What?
that? Oh.
So we are talking about the movie Eloise, which is actually a name of a mental institution. Now this movie stars Eliza, Dushku and Robert Patrick and is directed by Robert Legato. Now the story here basically is a haunted asylum. Who doesn't love a haunted asylum movie, I ask you? We've seen plenty of them in our time, and how does this one fare compared to the rest? I've got to say, a bit disappointed with this one. So the reasons for it, let's talk about the plot first of all. We basically have this kind of guy who has been told that he's inherited some money, but he needs to kind of get this death certificate from this kind of auntie that's kind of died, and that's kind of been filed away somewhere in this kind of burnt out husk of an asylum. So he and a couple of one friend, and he ends up kind of dragging a couple of other people into it as well. So four of them go searching for this document so he can kind of claim this $1 million inheritance basically. Along the way they kind of encounter various kind of spectres from the past, and truths behind their origins are revealed. So what do I think about Eloise? This is a horror film, but it's not the least bit scary, and when you have a haunted asylum, that really shouldn't be too hard to do. I mean, you've seen plenty of these films, and I keep mentioning kind of things like Grave Encounters, stuff like Crying Dead, all that kind of stuff, these haunted hospital types, they can be pretty scary, but this film literally has no scares in it. It does have a kind of very slick production value, and it looks quite nice, and the technical side of stuff is all very well done, and it's obviously got some fairly good actors here. I have to say, on the subject of actors, just having Robert Patrick there just kind of took me out of it a little bit. For some reason, I just couldn't buy him. I just kept seeing him as the Terminator, basically. The main issue here is that they spend a lot of time kind of going back in the past here and kind of trying to kind of rewrite history and such, and it all kind of is very circular in kind of what actually happens in regards to the plot, but ultimately it's not the least bit scary. Even when we do see some scary images, just the way it's kind of shown to us on screen, it doesn't come across as scary. So this is one of the least scary horror films I've ever seen, I think, in actual fact. It has got a nice production value, and I did quite like some of the actors in it, but ultimately it didn't really work for me. I guess it's trying to be a little bit clever in regards to some of the plot and how it kind of ties into kind of clues that we're mentioning, but some of the time it kind of hits you over the head a little bit too hard, then goes, remember this, remember that they said that this woman didn't like needles and things like that. So very obvious callbacks, stuff like that. So overall, it's pretty forgettable. It's slick, but ultimately unfulfilling. I'm going to give this movie a 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Just leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.